Phew. Hi, everyone. It's Cassandra Williamson, and yeah, I'm tired. It seems every day is a new challenge, and that's just the way it goes. And I'm fine with that. We can handle it, right? Images up here for this. I want to put in that one, and that one, and that one. Okay. I open up a couple images and get them in here. Right. I think this one is really cool. The one you're looking at right now, that was an AI generated image, obviously. And there is a video that goes along with it. Let me see if I can find the video really quickly too. I'll pull up a video for it and stick that in here. There's so much going on in the world right now. Some days it's just overwhelming. It's, oh my God, is it ever? It just never seems to let up. And it's no wonder so many of us are tired and run down all the time, unable to move forward in any kind of way that seems to make sense, because we're just running into brick walls. Our energy goes around. We're depleted of all of our energy and ability to look forward and do all kinds of things. But we've got to. But you have to take care of yourself too. And that's something I want to talk about just a little bit, is that of all the stuff that I do here, trying to call out people for being idiots like down in Texas with the Texas AG, wanting to infiltrate transgender and Antifa terrorist organizations. And he put transgender ahead of Antifa. And the question you probably should ask yourself is, why would anyone broadcast that they want to do that? Why would anyone broadcast that they want to infiltrate terrorist organizations? Does anybody have a clue about why they would do that? Well, it has nothing to do with them actually being terrorist organizations. It's all political theater. That's what Ken Paxton is doing. It's political theater. Let me see if I can get this thing to loop and play again. It's just political theater. People, that's what they do. That's how they plan to stay in power. They put their name out there and associated with attacks on and dehumanizing of those groups of Americans they don't like. And over on Fox News, you hear repeatedly about dehumanizing of ICE agents, and it enables people to go out and shoot them up and pull knives on them and spit in their face, because it is a true statement that whenever any large or any other organization in power dehumanizes another group, then it makes it easier for there to be violence committed against that group. And yeah, it goes both sides. There's nothing about this that is one side or the other. Every group does it in power. Every group who has, just give you another little example. Let's say you have a minority population of trans people in this country, representing about 1.5 million people. About 0.6% of the population in the country is transgender. How many people in this country are black men or Asian men or white men? How many of them? So guess what happens? Black men can more easily punch down to and upon trans people because they're fewer and they feel like they have the power over them. Asian men, white men, everybody else, they punch down too, but very few people try to punch up and help other people out. And it's a real challenge. I just don't understand why it's so necessary to have an enemy. Why do we have to have some person or group that we dislike? Why Why do we build our power off the destruction of those less than us in numbers or whatever that's perceived as less than? Why is it that so much media attention is spent attacking certain groups of people? Why is that? Well, it's multifold. Here in this country, in the United States, it's multifaceted. It's a very Januszian kind of thing, folks. People they're not monolithic people. They're not monolithic thinkers. Most people aren't. Most people don't know what they don't know. That's the biggest thing also. And they don't even want to ask in some cases. I've had people tell me, no, I like living in my cave. I really don't want to experience anything beyond this particular cave, this part of life. They like it that way, and you're wasting your time trying to convince them otherwise. So why is it that people do that, though? Why do they have to have someone to punch down upon? Is it human nature just to bully people? Is it human nature just to declare that group of humans is not worth this other group of humans, that we can dehumanize trans people, and then knowing darn well they've been dehumanizing trans people for years now, and it's become an art form over the past number of months, 9 months or so, or probably, let's go back, probably about 12, 19, 21 months, over the past 21 to 24 months, it has become an art form of dehumanizing trans people. And then the moment someone goes out and says trans or ICE are behaving badly, or like fascist or not human behaviors, evil behaviors, stuff like that, the moment someone does that, then the very same people who are dehumanizing trans people and have been for months and months and months and months and months suddenly forget that they've been doing this, and they say, we've got to stop dehumanizing these people because it makes it easy for people to go out and shoot other people up or kill them or stab them or throw rocks and spit at them and all kinds of stuff like that. It makes it easy to do that. All the while completely forgetting the past 24 months or more. It's been going on for a long time, actually, dehumanizing of trans people, decades even. But it picked up in the past decade a lot because it became a political football. They realized they can gain power off the back of destroying trans Americans. And they did. And they are doing it. But yet, the moment somebody goes out and says, we've got to do something about ICE, they're out here rounding people up and, kidnapping them off the street and hauling them down to Gitmo or some other place, wherever they might be, down in Alligator Alcatraz or some other place. The moment that somebody points that out, then the very same people who have been demonizing trans people for decades suddenly grow a pair and say, you can't be demonizing all these people because you're going to get somebody hurt. Have they apologized once for dehumanizing trans people all these years? No, and they're not going to. They're hypocrites. They really are just nothing more than hypocrites. So whenever I see something like the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is out here he put out a press release saying he's designating transgenderism and Antifa as terrorist organizations, and he's going to start infiltrating them and try to figure out how to bring them down. And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of things wrong with the statement. One is you went public because you wanted it to be public. You wanted it to be, you wanted to show your base. It's performative hatred. Not based on any kind of reality. It's performative politics. Ken Paxton, that's what you've done. It's not about rounding any of these things up. It's not about infiltrating any of these organizations or people or groups. No, it's not about that at all. It's performative to show your base in the state of Texas and to show the leaders in Washington that you are with them on all this social warfare stuff that you have been doing and you want to do, and you got your head so far in their behinds that you whenever you move or when they move, you move. And I mean move as in go to the bathroom. That's all this piece of crap was, this press release from Ken Paxton. It's performative politics. Performative politics. But how can we win against that? Because one, they have the upper hand. They've been for decades demonizing trans people. They go out and call them an ism, an ideology. How many trans people do you know who you know personally? Are they ideologies? Are they just an idea? Or are they real? I know lots of trans people who are Republicans. I know lots of trans people who are liberals. I know lots of trans people who are fascist and socialist and all kinds of other things. But those other things are ideology. But being transgender is not an ideology. That just gets under my skin. But you know something? We did that to ourselves, didn't we? Judith Butler started I think it was Judith Butler, it may have been before her. But anyway, one of those, I think it's Judith Butler or maybe Kimberly Crenshaw with all of the intersectionality and stuff like that when it first came around, became a big deal. Yeah, I've studied all those things too. But when they came around and all that, what did we see a lot of the academics doing over in the gender studies spaces? They were saying they use these terms of transgenderism and transvestitism and gender ideology. They did it. They did not have the foresight to know that it would come back to haunt them, because the people they were talking about were not ideologies. It's not something they could decide to be or undecide to be. That's just not the way it works. You are or you aren't. Yes, there are detransitioners out there, but they're still on their journey. This journey of who you are, trying to find yourself, it doesn't end. It's a continual process. It's a spectrum that goes from statistical spectrum. I'm talking about a distribution statistically. You're always learning more about who you are. If you're not, you're in a pine box. I can't stand the term gender ideology being used on people who know darn well that they aren't an ideology. They simply are who they tell you they are. But it's our fault because we allowed these terms to be used academically, and nobody in the community pushed back against it. And it goes even beyond that, because what happens in academia a lot of times, and I know I've been part of it too, what happens in academia a lot of times is you start regurgitating the same stuff you've heard over and over and over again, and you go back and check it, and obviously you're doing all the proper steps, you're going through all the proper things, you're doing all of these things, but the thing you're neglecting to do, with the exception of some things I was involved in down in Alabama, where we actually did listen to people about what they called themselves and how they identified, we let them do that and they guided the work. We were starting to get it right. We were starting to move in the right direction, to get away from this idea that academics in gender spaces, gender academia and gender studies and women's studies academia, they had taken over the conversation so much that whenever they said this is about gender ideology and women's studies and transgenderism and all that kind of thing, everybody just fell in line, myself included. I didn't have the foresight to see what that would do. I had not connected that yet. But now that I can look back in retrospect, I wish we could have stopped it then. There may have been people who knew what was coming. I've always thought I could know all those things, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not there's a lot I don't know, folks. A lot that I don't know, and a lot that I don't even know that I don't know. So I will never presume to be 100% confident of anything, ever. I know better than that. That is just not the way it works. But we did this to ourselves, and we didn't stop anything. We didn't stop it. We didn't think about it. We didn't think about it in terms of political discourse. We were thinking of it only in terms of academia, whether we could get another paper put out and publish another study. That's all we were doing in academia. Looking to get our name out there on a piece of paper somewhere, on a document or a study that we were involved with, and then knowing that it neglected the political side of it. And you don't think everything is politics? Yes, it is. Everything is political. And not only that, it's local. It's right where you are right now. So I can't change what Judith Butler put out there and actually took over in terms of gender ideology studies and gender studies and all this kind of stuff. I can't change that. It's done. I can't change what Kimberly Crenshaw did with intersectionality. She's a brilliant lawyer. But I can't change anything that she did in that regard. It's done. It's there. It's in print. You can find it. You can read it. And I've got the books somewhere. Well, I've been all over the darn country moving my stuff around. There's no telling if I still got it with me or not. So we did this to ourselves by calling ourselves an ideology, a gender ideology, academic gender ideology studies and transgenderism. And we stuck all of ourselves with all those names, and it was purely academic. It had no political reality attached to it. None of us were smart enough to catch on to the fact that there would be huge political repercussions from going down that road. My biggest thing that I saw had nothing to do with that. My biggest thing was, and still is, we don't want to be stuck in an echo chamber. I don't want you stuck in an echo chamber. I don't want us stuck in some silo somewhere that we're unable to get out of because the gatekeepers will not let you out, or will not let someone in who has a different view, or will kick out somebody who says something that doesn't fall in line. That's one of the biggest things that I've been pushing since I went into the Navy in 1977. Probably before then. I was big into Star Trek and all that kind of stuff, and the Federation of Planets, the egalitarian kind of existence. I loved all that kind of stuff, and I still do. Okay. It's very, very Pollyannish, and I wish we could get there, but people are so combative. They will cling on to the most brittle and brutal things in their lives just to say it's theirs. They will hold that hand grenade clip closed all their life, not realizing that the gunpowder in it expired 25 years ago, and they can just throw it in a creek. Yeah, we do that, don't we? So how do we deal with this stuff like what Ken Paxton's doing? Performatively saying that he wants to infiltrate transgender and Antifa terrorist organizations. Well, I just explained to you why it's more difficult for us today, because we allowed certain terms and words to define us when we should have been standing up and claiming those that do apply to us, and then kicking out those that don't. Very, very clearly making those statements and positions. We have been afraid to say things that needed to be said in our own groups. We're afraid of saying something that trans person over there is just off base so far that I think they might need additional help. Really? Or that trans person over there, they're going to do something stupid. And if I don't say something about that, then somebody could get hurt. We've been quiet about it all. We've been quiet. I have been personally told, don't speak ill of a trans person. There aren't enough of us. There are some trans people that need to be spoken ill of. Yeah. Yes, there are. There are also some really sicko white young men out there who go around shooting up churches. More of those than there are trans people doing that. Anyway, I always go into these programs. I always go into this program thinking, what am I going to talk about today? What am I going to talk about today? I've got things on my storyboard over here on the different side of this other monitor that's on the side. I've got ideas that I got over here that I want to cover and different things I want to talk about. And then I get stuck on different things that just kind of drag my attention and focus toward them because we need to address some of those things. And I'm going to tell you some things. Let's talk about biological reality. Let's talk about biological reality, trans people. I harp on this a lot. The people who have been watching this program fairly religiously for some time now, and I've been at it for like, 9 months maybe, something like that so far this time around. I harp on these things a lot. But we have new viewers coming in every now and then. We have drive-by viewers who will go onto YouTube or on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever they pick it up, and they drive by. What by that I mean, they see me talking and they let it scroll up the page, and it's there, but they don't rest their cursor on that in any way, because that way I don't know that they are watching. Yeah. Yeah, I've done it. I don't want them to know that I'm watching. But for me, if I'm going to be doing something like, you're going to know I'm there. You're going to know I'm there for sure. That's what this is all about. You go around, folks. Let me see. This one's even better. There's no sound with this particular thing, but I thought it was cute. I thought I had music in the background on this. Maybe I didn't put it on there. I can go and edit it back in. Anyway, now look, you're looking at that thing, says Cassandra's got it all focused on herself. And yes, I do. There are people in this community who cannot be as out and open as I am. So they need someone to kind of be that voice in public, shouting and screaming at people and doing all those kind of things and being public about it so they can be safe in their lives. It's a lot harder for someone to confront me directly. Why? Well, look, I live in Appalachia, and my brother just took a picture out on the front porch in his swing that our brother-in-law built for him. We put it up out there, and here's my brother. He's got his USA cap on, and he's swinging in the brand new swing that our brother-in-law made. Gorgeous swing. And he's got his shotgun there too. The dog shows up and pisses in the yard. It's going to take some real sneaking to get in here. But I invite people to come in. I mean, I sure do. I invite you to come in, sit with me. I'll drink sweet tea with you. I might have to make it because people don't drink very much tea around here. They have to go down a little bit further south of Appalachia, in the hills of Appalachia, Pike County, Kentucky, to get covered up in that kind of thing. And around here, you don't hear too many people say, well, bless your little heart. That's further down south, like Mississippi, Alabama, down along those lines. But I know that because I've lived down there too. So I'm pretty confident in using bless your little heart. I will invite people to come and sit on this porch, and knowing they will never show up. They don't want to get lumered. I told that word to the reporter who, with the Washington Post, who did my story, and she says, "What do you mean by lumered?" I said, "Look, this is how the conversation arose. I was saying, these people out here who are in government right now, like Doug Collins and Pete Hegseth and all of these people, know that I am vocal and loud about trans healthcare and trans people in general, and that they were kicked out of the military unceremoniously, not because they were qualified. They were exceptionally qualified, but simply because, Pete has a squishy little feeling about trans people in his life around him. He has a squishy little feeling about women being in power over him, and he is weak as ass, folks. But he's not going to come here and talk to me. You know why? Because he'll be lumered. Laura Loomer would turn him into the White House. The White House would fire him. Laura and Ryachek, or whatever the name is, who lives at TikTok, and Chase Spears over there on X, if they find a pride flag on your desk from 10 years ago, and you're sitting there with a trans person, and it's obviously a trans person because maybe they've got their little trans flag thing on their sleeve up here or on their collar. If you're one of those people who have one of those images in your social media profiles going back to any time in your past, then Chase, the small-minded idiot person that he is, a doctor no less, he reports you to Pete, and then Pete will have you fired within just 6 hours. Chase, Laura Loomer, Libs of TikTok, a handful of others, they are the military's PR team, not just PR team, but HR team. They're human relations council teams. These people determine who stays and who goes within the VA, within the federal government, within the Department of War. It's those three who have the biggest influence on who stays and who goes. There are generals who have lost their job because Chase found something or something was reported to him and he turned them in. Nominations pulled. They are the ones who are ensuring the ideological purity from Doug Wilson and his crazy Christian bunch being applied to the whole of the military and the federal government. Doug Wilson is scum of the earth. He thinks he's God's representative, but no, he's a plebiscite, barely scraping along the bottom of the earth because he likes to have power over women and minorities. Completely, totally, completely unchristlike. Completely unchristlike, just like Joel Whedon, who thinks he's God's gift to godhood. He defines what God is and how God is represented. You know, Joel, he knows a lot. I mean, he's really just a smart person out there. He is so totally full of crap. Oh my God. And I would say the same thing of a Muslim person or a Jewish person or a Buddhist or Confucianist or nativist or anyone, or even an atheist. Yes, any of them. If they went around doing stuff like that, they just don't have a lick of sense, folks. And I started out this conversation talking about what AG Ken Paxton was doing down in Texas. We've also had other breaking news today. There was some stuff happening at the White House. We had conversations all about Antifa, the origins of Antifa, and they started back in like 1920s in Italy. Anti-fascist. They were opposed. You know why they were anti-fascist back in 1920? Because there were some people who didn't really want to associate with Benito Mussolini. There were people who were not enamored with that man, but he had such masculine energy and power and sexual gravitas that the whole place just fell all over themselves for him, even as he played around with multiple women multiple times a day. People were making sure he had his appetite full of women day in and day out. Wherever he would go, people were rounded up and brought to him, lambs to the slaughter. And so Antifa originated from there as an operation that was opposed to fascism, which led to the Allies eliminating fascism, we thought. And now we have to do it again. But, you know, now we got the government going after the anti-fascists because they're the ones out there saying that ICE is bad, the government is bad, and all of this kind of stuff. And they're demonizing and dehumanizing law enforcement officers and government officials, and Pam Bondi and all of these different people in power right now are being demonized and dehumanized by the amorphous group of people who are opposed to fascism. I'm opposed to fascism. I don't belong to any of those groups. I'm not going to be out here firebombing anybody or doing anything like that. I will not do that. I don't encourage anyone to do that. If I know who you are and you are talking about doing something like that, well, maybe you shouldn't talk to me about that, because I will find a way to find you and stop you. So yeah, I'm strongly opposed to fascism. But here's the thing: fascism, the conversation around fascism is not an endpoint. It's a process. Fascism was a process that led to Nazi Germany, led to Benito Mussolini, that led to Franco, Chavez, Pinochet. These ways of thinking and moving through authoritarianism, through greater and greater power, hyper nationalism, hyper masculinity, the man does the thing and the woman follows along and makes babies kind of thing. That's all in that. This is all part and parcel of that. You can follow it along. The process is clear, and we are definitely on our way. Don't like that? Maybe you need to do a little reading and studying. Not sure what time I can be back around noon tomorrow. I do have an appointment for my sister. I think it might be in the afternoon, but I'm going to try to make sure I'm here around noon Eastern time and 6 p.m. Eastern time. Again, also the next day after that, I have my own appointments at the VA, and I'm at the point where I just might even call them and let them know I'm not going to do it anymore, because I don't have time to fool with that. Let's see what the chat says before I take off down here. Yep, stochastic terrorism from politicians demonizing women, David Neeson, lesbians, trans people. Yes, it's stochastic terrorism. Exactly. That is the term that defines the words used to denigrate, dehumanize, and disenfranchise populations of groups of people they dislike in the country. How do you move forward? Well, who wants to help me create a trans terrorist training cell in Texas? I've been asking around. I mean, I've sent the AG's office this. I put it on all kinds of social media posts. So what do we need to do to create a trans terrorist training cell, satirically, down in Texas? Well, let me see. Do I need to go ahead and apply as a foreign corporation, because I am a for-profit corporation here in Kentucky, a limited liability corporation nonetheless, but still, as a corporation, Cassandra Williamson LLC. Do I need to be registered as a foreign corporation in Texas to create this trans terrorist training cell, the TTTC, the T cubed C? I'm trying to figure out a way to say it. It's the T cubed C down in Texas. Do I need to go ahead and register with the Secretary of State's office and let them know? Do I need to fill out any paperwork to let the AG's office know that there's a trans terrorist training cell that's being operationalized in Texas? How do we go about doing that? Anybody? Can we find a mariachi band, maybe? And in closing, I'm going to say one other thing too. The AG candidate, the person running for AG in Virginia, apologized for the stupid statements he made. I know that person was a liberal, a Democrat, and I know that they stood a chance of winning that. But the statements that person made were reprehensible. So I refuse to be a hypocrite in any of the things that I say. I try to make sure that I'm not. I try. I really try. I know I miss it sometimes, but here's a case where you can prove yourself, Democrats and liberals, you can prove that you aren't hypocrites like what we're seeing over on Fox News, talking about dehumanizing people and completely ignoring the fact they've dehumanized people. We can avoid the label of hypocrite by telling Mr. Jones Get out of the race. What he said was wrong. I don't care if a Republican wins it or not. He said something wrong. He needs to get out of the race. We need to hold him accountable for that. Otherwise, we're just as big a hypocrite as what we're seeing on Fox News.